And it's great to kickstart our community learning calls. And this time it's about understanding Johari Window and understanding how we can use it in coaching. So Johari Window, and I think this is a very, very important slide. So I always thought Johari was, had something very Indian to it, till I realized it was about Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham, who in 1955, kind of spoke about this and therefore created a model, which then became Joe and Harry from Harrington, and Joe from Joseph. So Johari Window it is. And the purpose of the Johari Window is actually talking about how much do you know yourself. So all about self-awareness. And at that point in time, I think even before the way we understand coaching as of today, I think it became far more useful to actually as a maybe a tool, but as a reflection document, I would say, to really start understanding about yourself a bit better. So how does the Johari Window work? Johari Window works because it helps you understand yourself, and also start understanding how others are perceiving or experiencing you. And therefore, it helps you to start working on anything which is relational from that perspective. Right. So from a relational perspective, it helps you build a lot of things. And it sounds very connected to coaching because it talks about self-awareness, which is what coaching is actually and development is rooted on. So what does the Johari Window actually talk about? It has 4 quadrants to it, and the first and the 2 axes that these quadrants are there on is, one is about a part of yourself which so which is known to yourself, and and that and those areas, or just what are those things that others know about you, right? So it's about yourself knowing yourself, it's about others knowing you, right? And those are the 2 kind of axes that you have. And what is it? So you have 4 quadrants, and these 4 quadrants are represented by the green, orange, and the gray, and the darker gray maybe. So let's start with the open area. And the open area basically talks about where others also know you and you also know yourself, right? So that's called the open area, where both are known, right? So basically this helps understanding so how do you show up, how do you feel. So let's just do a quick thought here. I'm going to just stop share for a moment to ask you, what is it about you, and maybe you can write it in chat, that and that others also know about you. You can write it in chat or come off mute, whatever works for you. Ruma, Renu, Nitin, whoever can talk. If not, I can start with mine. So let me start with mine. I think most people will know me as a person who is approachable. That's what they would know me. And why they would know me as approachable, that's one thing that they would ask, is because how they will know me is because I think the behaviors that they see around that is easy to talk to, can connect, can start a conversation with most people, and that's what are indicator behaviors. The green area talks about something that you know and others also know because they've experienced you, they've seen you. The other aspect is when you're talking about hidden areas, which you can see at the bottom left-hand corner, where you know it, but others don't know it so much. So that's something that you would, possibly keep hidden, keep with you. And possibly the reason also to do this is, if you start working, on those areas, then you would also possibly start looking at why are you doing what you're doing. But that's really the hidden area, right? What you know and others may not know. Then you come to the area which is called the blind spot, right? The blind spot is where others know, but you don't know. So something about you that others are experiencing, but you may not be aware of it, right? And this comes in very handy in coaching. Yes. And then finally, the unknown area where you also don't know, others also don't know. It's yet to be discovered, if you would say, right? And the purpose of using a Johari Window tool is so that you're able to, can you see this overlap of a kind of a square which is here, and the slight shaded square is basically to say how much are you becoming in touch and aware of who you really are. So your hidden parts, how are you dealing with it? So others, you're able to deal with it so that you can it can become an open area and it can be known and you're working on it, so that's one. The other one is blind spot, where others are experiencing you, but you don't know. How do you work? So how are you trying to make your open area more and more larger? And that is where coaching fits in, right? Because coaching is about deepening your self-awareness. And if you're deepening your self-awareness, then you're able to look at all these areas. Why is this hidden? Why don't others know? What is it that I'm trying to keep it hidden for? So all those kind of things. So you know what and how to deal with. And the other aspect is to say blind spot. Blind spot is something that others are experiencing. So what don't I know that I need to work on? So being curious about it and working on it. So the more you expand yourself, the more your self-awareness increases. Well, this was just a theory, and I'm going to move a little bit faster now. And the purpose of moving faster is because I'm just going to read this out. And the reason I want to read this out is trying to draw the connection between Johari Window and coaching. So one, this is a tool or a framework where people are able to spot and write about themselves, right? So they can start understanding what are those behaviors that they're exhibiting. What is it that they know? What is it that others don't know? So you're actually populating this. And as you're populating this, many things come up. What is hidden? What makes it hidden for you? What makes you want to hide it? Right? So, and so on and so forth. Similarly, so I can give you an example. Somebody who appears very calm and patient, but in other parts of life, they're not calm and patient. That could be a hidden area. What others experience you is calm and patient, but in certain parts of your life, you're not calm and patient. So maybe that's a good question to sit and reflect on, to say, how can I leverage that calm and patience that I can show in other areas, if it is important for you, right? So therefore, you make your hidden portion bigger. Similarly, I think blind spots, is quite clear. When others are experiencing you, they're also able to share with you their experiences of you, so you know how is it that you're showing up. And the more you're clear about how is it that you're showing up, you would also be able to take that call to say, hey, how do I want to show up? And therefore, what do you want to work on, right? So that's what's the is the blind spots, right? And blind spots could be a strength too. Let's not only think about it as an area of improvement. Yeah. Because a blind spot could also be, I am not aware of it. A blind spot could also be, I don't want to accept it.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the most important aspects of blind spots is when you uncover that, and in coaching, that's what we do, you're bringing it for consideration for the person, whose blind spot it is. So the coachee in that case. Now they have to use that consideration to decide whether they want to work on it or not, and therefore the acceptance. And maybe the coaching is all around saying that, what is causing, the resistance. And therefore, maybe ask them that, how does this serve you, maybe?
So how do you deal with coaches or clients where client says, okay, I understand how these people are feeling, and I know why they are feeling like that, but they have to deal with it. They need to grow. I mean, you are aware of how people are feeling, you know why, but no need for change.
So, I don't have a written answer for you, but I definitely have a situation. So there is a leader exactly who's saying, I'm being the way I am right now. And it's more situational and context driven. So because this is what is required as a leadership style currently for the situation that they're in. Somebody who's going to be talking about non-negotiable things, who's going to hold people accountable, right? But it doesn't mean that. I think the important aspect there is, what is the balance that you are able to keep? If the balance is turning any which way, I think that's where the challenge is. So currently, I would talk about a client situation where it is a team, and that team is also related. It's the senior most leadership team, top team, and they're also related. Now that adds a little bit of complexity, because who's going to bell the cat? They all know that it is important to change. right? Who's going to build the cat? Because some things is just accepting as a team. Some things also understanding, hey, I may need to make this initial effort more than others. In this particular situation, the one that I spoke about, where the top team who are also related, who need to make those calls. I think what came up what is coming up is there a need for change in all these situations? And thanks, Ruma, for bringing that up. Is there a need for change? If there is a need for change, there is a willingness to consider. If there is no need for change, then willingness to consider will be low. Right? And in fact, that's the principle of large-scale systems change as well. Is there a need for change? Once you've identified the need for change, when there is enough, and we call it positive dissatisfaction with that state, then you would actually work on what needs to change. D into V into F being greater than R. So positive dissatisfaction into your envisioned future that you want, your vision, and the first action steps that you're willing to take. If the product of all this is greater than resistance, change will happen. But I think the important aspect is to recognize the D, and that is positive dissatisfaction. Am I okay with status quo? Right? If you're not okay with status quo, and therefore what you want to do. And that's why I think coaching becomes very relevant, because coaching is never saying that, you need to work in this area. Coaching is always saying, what would you like to consider from here? And then work on those considerations. And I just want to highlight a couple of more things in terms of what makes it relevant and how do you actually use it in a coaching engagement. So in fact, what seems to be, so there has to be some data which needs to be fed into this, right? So from a coaching engagement perspective, you can feed the data from from any psychometric that you have. You can feed that data from any 360 that you have done. And something that we do very uniquely at SCI is we use the voice of the system. And it seems very similar to a 360, but I think the mindset and intention is very different, and the impact therefore is very different. And why we do that is, the voice of the system is about having dialogic, touch points with the ecosystem of the coachee, of the client. So that there is a holistic perspective for the client to consider. Having said that, there are a couple of things which are thumb rules. One thumb rule for the voice of system is that there should be enough openness and therefore maturity and wisdom in the system for the client as well as for the stakeholder ecosystem to have enough psychological safety to be able to share what they share. The second thing that's also important is, even if you're not able to do this with all stakeholders, if you can do it with some, and do what? Actually get your client to accompany on these conversations. So the voice of the system is not just like a 360 where somebody writes something about you and gives it to you. They are dialogic and they are real time, which means that the client is also listening to the ecosystem as to what they're saying, how they are experiencing them, which I think is very rich data. And I can definitely share with you one place where I use that, where the client made notes, the coach made notes, and when you come back and compare it together, you actually try to see, okay, what is it that I have missed? What is it that I have added, which is not there? So now you are actually starting to look at different perspectives. And I think that is a very good precursor to using the Johari window, because Johari window is almost, it is summative in nature, but formative in use. So summative because you get all the inputs and you put it in there, and formative because that's how you use your coaching conversations, right? So I think, and it ties in very well with what ICF is also talking about in terms of, the MCS, which is all about the mental coach system that they are bringing into place. Having said that, coming back to coaching, very important to use this tool as summative and formative, so that you have those inputs there revealed, available, seeing, and also saying that, okay, how are you going to work with this going forward? And one of the most powerful things that I've actually seen is when you're putting this input, And if coach and client have been there real time listening to the ecosystem of stakeholders to actually see what came up, and that itself could be a hidden, it could be a blind spot, it could be an open area, it could be anything, right? Is what can actually show up in the Johari window. Yes, Nitin.
So, sir, I have a question, possibly on behalf of other participants as well. So, we have talked about working on the open area, blind spots, and the hidden area. We haven't really talked about unknown. How do you work with the unknown with the client, where the client says, I don't know, and the others also don't know? How do you expand the open area in the unknown space? What's the process there?
So these are some questions that we had put down, saying that, what could you ask? That in order to, even if you don't go ahead, do a 360 or whatever, something that could, quick reference that could help. And I want to go to this area where we're talking about unknown. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is this actually speaks to that. Because if nobody knows it, then how do you know it? And this is about, and I think it completely relates to coaching and coaching competencies. So if you think about and it comes in, if I'm not mistaken, competency 8. In competency 8, where you're actually talking about, okay, what could happen in future? That is one of those, and Nitin, you can help me out with exactly what does that competency say. It is.
It talks about the impact. It talks about the impact of the outcome that you are anticipating, and what would it look like in the coming time frame.
Yeah. So what is it that you foresee that could happen in future, and that competence actually relates to this. So from this, you've gathered a lot of stuff. And you know what you know, and others know what they know of you. This particular set of questions helps look at that.
How do you usually respond in unfamiliar situations? That's an interesting question.
And that's a very beautiful question, because it actually, in a way, says unfamiliar means uncertain. Right? It also talks about risk. It also talks about willing to take that step, willingness. So there are many dimensions it can reveal about you.
I think the first thing when I'm reading that question is, what does unfamiliar situations mean is what I'm thinking right now. The response will come later. No, what would an unfamiliar situation look like? Okay.
Yeah. So I think these are some of those questions which will actually help the client as well to start looking at it. The idea, and I'm just going back a little bit, all these 4 areas that we're talking about, at the end of the day, these 4 areas is about creating this space which is going to be more and more open. The more self-awareness you have, you start, with coaching, you start working on creating greater alignment. So the more self-awareness is, the purpose of that is to create greater alignment. And that's why we also talk about intention, behavior, impact. Right? So if you're very clear about how do I want to show up, and the impact is not happening the way it is supposed to happen, or you had envisioned it, that means something is not working there. Right? So you need to either go back and question your intention, figure out what's going on there, or you need to figure out what's going on in your behavior. Your behavior is only a vehicle for you to translate that intention to impact.
So while there is a psychometric that you can do to get to the data of Johari Window, Johari Window itself also have a set of questions which can itself be used as a psychometric question. So if you do a Google search, you'll find that and it has a very different way of collecting the data, different than general psychological or psychometric tests that I have seen. So this itself can be used as the full-fledged psychometric tool if you want to use for the organization. I guess another thing that I would want to highlight is that this expands the territory of individual. So it is not only applicable to individual, it can be applicable to teams as well.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's, I think, a very, very important aspect, because typically teams tend to think about individuals in the team. when they start, and this is a tool which actually would help them look at themselves as one entity.
Good.
Right? And therefore they're talking about how they are. So it's a way for them to start looking at how they are showing up as one unit. And I think that's a very, very important way, and maybe good space for conversation starters, so that now they can get into reflections in order to say what is it that I want to do with it, etc. As an entity. Wonderful.
Yep.
This is one way the team starts looking at themselves as one unit. Right? And this is a good tool to use it like that. Typically, teams will say, yes, I'm like this, and it becomes personal, individual driven. For them to start looking at, okay, so what is the open area? What is it that others know about us as one unit?
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah, as a whole unit, because they also have to. I mean, different departments also have to figure out how they are perceived and work on themselves.
So one good example is when the ability to influence or work towards a decision, maybe it resides in parts in the team. It is not there with the team as a whole. So maybe one of those in the I don't know whether you will call it blind spot, but one of the inputs that you will get is to say, hey, in your team decision making and action is fragmented. So now you're talking about fragmentation. So what happens? So it could lead to, and this is only a could, but it could possibly point towards saying that as a team, if it happens in pockets, why is it happening in pockets? What does it need for it to happen as an entire team? So maybe you're working on psychological safety. So there could be various other things that could happen in the team. And that's why to look at themselves as a team could be very useful.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
And I think one of the, so uses of Johari Window, yes, you can definitely use it as a tool for either converting inputs of a psychometric or a 360 into this, so that they're able to map themselves. Your client is able to map themselves. You can use this itself as a dialogic way of actually gathering your data rather than working on a psychometric or a 360. The third thing that you could do is, and this is what the voice of system and what we do at SCI is, have that conversation with your client, if there is enough psychological safety and maturity in the system, with the ecosystem of stakeholders. And what happens, you can actually put down all the data, see what is matching, not matching between what the coach has gathered and what the client has gathered. Now you use this tool, and that tool now becomes representative, because there itself, I think you will find some things that got said and not understood, or got said but not really seen. Could be a blind spot, could be an open area that one needs to work on. So I think all those things will happen in that conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to be careful here. And while we have said that about the voice of the system, there's a lot of setup and preparation required in order for you to bring your client and stakeholder and yourself together in the conversation which feels safe. So don't just try it on a whim. Make sure that there is enough preparation with the system is done, and enough education within the system is done before you attempt it.
And thanks for that mindful note. It just brings to mind, if done mindfully and yields the result, then coaching is not something that happens at a moment in time. Coaching starts even before anything else. So setting up is also part of understanding, hey, how do I need to show up in that system of gathering that info? Thanks, Nitin. Thanks for that. All right. So, sorry, Ruma, you seem to want to say something.
No, I was just going to come in and say that, when Nitin was talking about the safety part, and I was going to say that sometimes takes a little bit of time when you meet a new system, which is an organization, to just, maybe I mean, I've been just talking from my experience. Sometimes it takes time to understand the level of psychological safety that exists in the system between the client and let's say the boss and the rest of the ecosystem, the peers, etc. So that's what I was going to say, that it's not always very apparent, and once you start understanding the system a little bit, after a few meetings you sort of understand that a little better. So I don't know if Saras or Nitin, if you have any thoughts on that, because the voice of system is typically at SCI. Do you do that right at the start? Or, I mean, how do you figure out that there's enough safety in this system to be able to do this?
And thanks for asking that, Ruma. I think the first level of safety that needs to be brought in is a safety between us and the system. Even before we talk about the safety within them, are they feeling safe with us? Yeah. And it never happens in the first meeting. You take few meetings, possibly even expose yourself to some of the smaller interventions before they start having trust in you. So voice of the system is not something that you just go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to do it. It takes a while for you to build that trust and safe environment with them.
Yeah,
you're right about that.
And I think to add to that, it's also about understanding what is my role and responsibility here in this part, which is very important, which is part of the preparation. So it all depends on, I think the first thing is how safe that system is feeling. If the system is not feeling safe with you or with this voice of system, that itself is an indication. And system will reveal itself, saying that I'm not comfortable with this. And everything is a layer. Sponsor is a layer. Supervisor is a layer. Peers are a layer. Team is a layer. It could also be clients who are layers. It could be others, a friend at work who could be a layer. So there could be various layers, systemic layers and lenses. And it doesn't mean everything has to happen. You can even do it in part. But most importantly, everybody needs to also understand the preparation is all about saying that if you want to get into it, you could get dividends. But in order to get those dividends, it's important that it's set up well and you understand what your role and responsibility. And that's what, I was alluding to when I was saying wisdom and maturity.
Yeah, thanks for that, Saras. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think we are at a good space for us to close our conversation for today. This